All right, welcome back. This is our second lecture in the Comprehensive Guide to Mammography Physics. Last time, we talked about the unique challenges. Today, we're diving deep into the fundamental physics that makes it all work.
So if our last talk was all about why mammography is so incredibly demanding, this one is all about the how. We are going straight into the engine room to really understand the core principles that let us see what would otherwise be completely invisible.
And we really have to start right here with this quote because it sets the stakes so perfectly. The physics we're about to break down, well, it isn't just academic, it's not just for an exam. It is the critical, real-world difference between a doctor detecting a cancer and a misdiagnosis. Every single principle we talk about truly matters.
So our story really begins with that core challenge. How do you tell the difference between tiny, subtle tissues that look almost identical? Well, the secret to solving this lies in one incredibly powerful physical interaction, and it's all governed by this one beautiful, elegant formula, Z cubed over E cubed.
Okay, so inside the breast, every single X-ray photon we send in faces a choice. It can either undergo the photoelectric effect, or it can cause Compton scatter. You can honestly think of this as a battle. The photoelectric effect is our hero. It's what creates the amazing, high contrast we desperately need. Compton scatter, that's the villain. It just fogs up the image with low contrast noise. Our entire goal here is to rig this fight in favor of our hero.
So, what exactly is this hero of ours? Well, the photoelectric effect is simply when a photon is completely absorbed by an atom. That's it. And its probability is governed by that magic formula. It's proportional to the atomic number, which we call Z, cubed, and it's inversely proportional to the photon's energy, or E, also cubed. And trust me, that cubed part, that's where all the magic happens.
So what does that math actually give us in the real world? Well, breast tissue is made of two main things: glandular tissue with an atomic number around 7.4 and fat at about 6.4. I mean, that's a tiny difference, right? But because of that powerful Z-cubed relationship, that small gap creates this. Glandular tissue is 54% more likely to absorb a photon than fat. That is how we generate incredible contrast from almost nothing. It's just pure physics at work.
Okay, so now we know we need to maximize that photoelectric effect. So how do we create the perfect X-ray beam to actually do it? Well, the whole process starts right inside the X-ray tube, with the very first choice we have to make. What material are we going to hit with electrons to generate our photons?
Turns out we have three main flavors to pick from. First up is molybdenum, or MoMo. It gives us two characteristic X-ray peaks at low energies, which are just about perfect for most breasts. Then there's rhodium, or R. It gives us slightly higher energy peaks, which are better for penetrating denser tissue. And finally, we have tungsten, or W. It's different. It doesn't give us useful peaks in this energy range. Instead, it produces a broad, kind of messy spectrum of energies called Bremsstrahlung.
But here's the catch. The raw beam from those targets is still too messy. It's full of photons that have energies that are either too high or too low to be useful. So the next critical step is to sculpt it, to literally carve away all the useless photons and leave only the perfect ones behind.
So how do you sculpt a beam of X-rays? We use a filter that has a special property called a K-edge. And this gatekeeper analogy is absolutely perfect. At one very specific energy, the filter suddenly starts absorbing almost every photon above that energy, creating a super sharp cutoff. This is how we block all the high-energy photons we don't want, while letting all the useful ones pass right on through.
And this brings us to a classic physics puzzle, the kind of thing you see on board exams all the time. If we have rhodium targets and we have molybdenum filters, why do we never ever use the combination of a rhodium target with a molybdenum filter? The answer really shines a light on just how precise this whole beam sculpting process has to be.
And here's the solution. A rhodium target, remember, produces its useful photons at 20.2 and 22.7 keV. The problem is, the molybdenum filter's K-edge, its cutoff point, is at 20.0 keV. This means the gate is perfectly positioned just before the useful photons arrive. It would end up blocking the very photons we were trying to create. It's a perfect mismatch.
So, we have our targets and we have our filters. Now let's put it all together and see how these combinations are matched, not just to each other, but more importantly, to the patient's specific anatomy.
This table really lays it all out. Think of it as a spectrum. On one end, you have molybdenum on molybdenum, or MO/MO. This gives us the lowest energy beam, which means we get the highest possible contrast, but it also comes with the highest dose.
Then on the complete other extreme, you've got tungsten with a rhodium filter, or W/R. This produces a higher energy beam that's great for penetration, giving us the lowest dose, but, you guessed it, also the lowest contrast. Every choice is a clinical trade-off.
Okay, so we've picked our target and our filter. The final step now is to fine-tune that beam for the patient who's actually on the table. This is all about selecting the right tube voltage, or kV, and using some very clever automation. As you can see here, it's pretty intuitive. The thicker and denser the breast, the higher the kV we need to get enough photons through to the detector. So for a thin, fatty breast, we might use that MO/MO combo at around 25 kV. But for a very thick or dense breast, maybe one with an implant, we might need the penetrating power of a W/RH combo at up to 35 kV. It is always a constant balancing act between image quality and radiation dose.
So you might be asking, how does the machine make all these complex choices in real time? Well, modern systems use this brilliant two-stage process. First, there's a tiny pre-exposure pulse. Think of it like a scout. It zips through the breast and measures the exact thickness and density. Then, based on that data, the system automatically selects the perfect combination of target, filter, kV, and exposure time for the main shot. It's just an amazing piece of engineering.
We've now generated the perfect photon, we've sculpted it, and we've fired it through the breast. So where does it all end up? Let's take a look at the final energy budget for a typical mammogram. This is so important to understand. A massive 50 to 70% of the photons we create are just absorbed in the breast. That's what contributes to the patient's dose. Only 20 to 30% actually make it all the way through to form the image. This is why every single step we've just discussed, every bit of optimization for that beam is so absolutely critical.
So let's just do a quick summary. The engine of contrast is that Z cubed over E cubed relationship, period. We forge the raw beam with specific targets, and then we sculpt it with those amazing K-edge filters. Every choice is a clinical trade-off between getting great contrast and keeping the dose low. The ultimate goal, always, is creating the perfect photon for each individual patient. Which brings us right back to where we started. After walking through that entire process, this quote should have even more weight, right? The physics isn't just theory. It is the toolbox that we use to make a life-saving diagnosis possible. And that's our look at the physics principles. In our next explainer, we're going to dive into the incredible hardware that puts all this physics into practice, the specialized detectors, the C-arms, and the quality assurance that makes sure every single image is perfect. I'll see you then.